Hi and welcome to a quick tutorial video on the Elektron Model cycles. I just wanted to show my process of recording with it. I hope maybe it helps someone. It was my first hardware unit, so I wasn't really aware of the process of recording audio from a hardware device into your DAW, in my case Ableton. And I think this might be, for a lot of people, maybe the first synth or drum, groovebox, whatever, because it's quite affordable. So let's have a quick look into it. I'm on Windows, so I think that makes a bit of a difference, because for Mac I've heard that it works better to just use the USB, because it doesn't only do MIDI data but also USB audio. But in my case it didn't really work, and I had a few glitches, and for me it works better to just send MIDI over the USB and use the 3 outs, or the main outs, for recording, and everything is summed in there, so you can't have a track or a song and record each separate step automatically in your DAW. You have to do that by yourself. It's important to say my method only works for like a studio environment. You can't really jam with the machine and then later on separate it into the tracks like kick, snare. Doesn't work for that, but maybe it helps. So alright, let's first connect it. I connect the USB for MIDI, and I have a little power supply with a USB to a barrel jack, because I like to take the machine somewhere else and then program a little beat or a little song, and then or maybe when I have a track idea, and then later on I come here and just record it into Ableton and go further along with them. Now let's hop into Ableton. I always wanted to say that, by the way. I just opened up a fresh new session, didn't change anything to it yet, and my beat that I programmed is in 104 BPM, so let's just go there. But first, if we want to send MIDI to the device, it's important to go first under Options, Preferences, and then go to Link MIDI, and just check if your model cycles is if you have the right settings, because you want to send MIDI to it and just record audio that's coming out. So it's important down here under Output you have the Elektron Model cycles, and under Sync it says enable the sync switch for any output ports which Live should send sync messages to, and that's what we want. So we make sure this is on. And let's delete one MIDI and one audio. And to begin, it's the same for every synth. So if you already have some kind of hardware outboard gear, you're familiar with this. But it was my first hardware device, so maybe it helps someone else too. So you have a MIDI and an audio track. And on the MIDI track, you put an external instrument. And to make things clearer, let's just rename this. Let's name it MIDI MC for model cycles. And this is audio, or no, better. I know that I want to have my kick, my snare, and everything on separate tracks. So let's call it kick. Insert audio track, have a new one, name it snare, and so on. Let's first have these. Then go under your external instrument in your MIDI channel, MIDI to Elektron Model cycles. It's already it's connected via USB, so Ableton knows it's here. Didn't change the channel. And audio from, now you see what's moving is my microphone under 1. So I've connected the headphone jack to my input 2 on my audio interface. Normally I would take 1, 2, but for this let's take the headphone. And now you're set. Now you can go under your audio channels. You need to take here audio from. Let's put this on MIDI model cycles, because on your MIDI track it's an external instrument that sends the MIDI to the Elektron Model cycles, and the model cycles sends audio to this input here, input number 2, and then all this goes in this audio track. And let's switch over to the arrangement view. And first we want to record the kick. Let's arm the track. And then on your model cycles, the way I do it, I have the pattern loaded up, volume all the way up, so just for a better ratio. And then I mute all the channels that I don't want to record. So at first I want to record the kick channel, so I mute the other channels. For this I press and hold function and just turn all the channels off that I don't need. So I have only channel 1 not muted, so now we can play over here or just hit the space bar. Okay, we hear the kick, everything's working fine, so let's hit record. Alright. Oh, I didn't check it before. It's important to check your gain levels, just so you don't go in too hot or too silent, and then add gain and add noise. I had to increase the gain a bit, but -10 it's perfect. Ah, sorry, now both played the recorded and the output from the machine. Okay, now let's have a look. And what I struggled most with when I began recording was I was thinking a lot about buffer size and everything and latency. When you used to record anything from microphones, guitars, synths, anything, you're familiar with this, with the buffer size. But if you're not, the latency is really like controlled by the buffer size that you set. Right now I have a really big buffer size, 1024 samples, and the lower you go here, the less latency you have, but the more your CPU, it goes up, and the lower you go, it maybe start to crackling, and now I'm also recording my screen and everything, so I've just set it really high. Let's open my motor here. Yeah, it's set to 1024. Normally when I record audio I try to be somewhere around 64, 128. These are quite good values that work for me, but it also works with 1024. I'll just show you in a bit what I do next. This is quite easy to do when you're working with at least some hits that are on the grid. So for example my kick here, and you can measure the latency, the delay of the grid to the actual start of the kick, and it's down. Oh, I can't move the mouse and read it. It's down there. It says 56 milliseconds. That's too much for me. So what I like to do on the Windows computer is hold Shift and Control. So the mouse changes, you see, when I leave it. So let's just grab this and pull it, yeah, not perfectly on the grid, but just almost near the grid. So yeah, it's alright like this. And let's see if that works for every other hit, because sometimes it might be that the hits are not exactly the same and you don't want to start it too early. Yeah, it's just a preference how you like it, but this looks really good. And what's also important, if you want to if you wanna listen to what you've recorded, you can deactivate the external instrument, because otherwise you would trigger it all the time and listen to your recorded track. That sounds weird. So we can deactivate it and then just have a listen. Maybe from the start, not from the end. Yeah, that's perfect. So we can go on to the next track, and it's just the same. You go, I've already called the snare, and I have to set the input to MIDI model cycles. So the audio comes from the MIDI and external instrument track. Now I mute my first track and unmute the second track. Okay, now we should hear the snare and hit record. Hope you're smarter than me, and when you record, you activate external instrument again. You don't have to deactivate and activate all the time. It's, yeah, maybe just do it once and check if everything recorded sounds nice, and then go on and record the further tracks. Alright, let's delete this. Start again, record your this time snare. Yeah, it sounded really weird this time because the delay is really noticeable. So let's go to the snare. Another look. Yeah, it's the same. You could also do some delay compensation, but to be honest, I would say I've tried everything. And if you can't bring down your buffer size down enough, it's just easiest for me. Yeah. You can check it's 56 again, so I just put down Shift and Control and drag it on the grid. Yeah, it's easiest way for me and it works. Okay, now let's try again how that sounds. Yeah, it's alright. Let's activate it again. Have a new audio track. I don't know what's the next audio track. Let's have a look. Okay, these are my hi-hats. Hi-hats, arm the track and MIDI model cycles, and then give it a go. Yeah, it sounds a bit weird, but it's just because of my delay, the latency. And when I programmed this in the Elektron Model cycles, I applied some swing, so be careful if you do that on what note you look for the latency. But I know that on the first one there's no swing, so let's go another closer. Okay, maybe like this. Yeah, it looks alright. It doesn't have to be perfectly on grid. Sometimes it sounds nice if it's a bit loose and a bit shifted. Yeah, just experiment with that a bit. And let's see if I have a fourth track or if it's just these three. Ah yeah, there's an important one. It's I call it knock, because it's like someone knocks on wood, and I really like that sound. And it goes like this. Okay. And I'm sure there's some swing as well, but let's just have a look and try to get it on the grid and check these two. Yeah, this looks okay. Now we have all the tracks that I programmed, and let's deactivate it again and have a listen from the beginning. Yeah, sounds quite nice. And we can just shorten all these tracks so that it's my 4 bars, okay. And then loop this. And what I like to do next is a bit of cleaning up. So let's go to the kick first and solo this one. Usually the model cycles, it really has massive kicks, and yeah, it depends on how you program them, how deep you go with the pitch and everything, but they have a lot and lots of low-end energy. So what I usually do is first get an EQ8 on it. Yeah, there's a lot going on. It depends if you want a bit of a low cut, but I wouldn't do a really strong one, because you might emphasize it, the low frequencies, and get some phase shifts, and you might actually just turn the gain up this way. I think I already did it with this. Just always check the peak. Yeah, it already goes up a bit, but still I like doing it. And then I think what works quite good for these kicks from the Elektron Model cycles are it's a bit of the Pultec trick to boost and attenuate in the low end. So I like to boost somewhere around 50 or 60 hertz, just a bit. And then, or before I do it, let's first show you the area between 250 and 300. I don't really like that much. It's a bit boxy, so I like to take out a bit in this range, just to clean up the sound a bit. And together with the slight boost down here, you hear that the tone gets just a bit cleaner, and it appears deeper. I like it this way. Let's go to the next tracks, to the snare. And when I deactivate the low cut, see that the snare also has a lot of low end information that we don't really need, in my opinion. Yeah, it's starting to sound really thin, but somewhere here I don't think there's a big difference, if at all, and it just makes room for the kick drum in the low end. And we can also do it in context, but I like to first check each track, how it sounds, and then of course hear it in context later with the other tracks. The hi-hats don't really have a lot of low end information. That's good, but can just do it anyway. Maybe it sounds better to take out even more. It really depends on the style of music you make, because I find that the metal machine from the Elektron Model cycles, it tends to really it can be really harsh and a bit annoying. Yeah. That's enough for me. I just need a little bit of the high-end sizzle, and yeah, maybe just boost it a bit in the highs. You can always start to look for annoying frequencies and take these out, but yeah, let's leave it like that for now. Then go to the knock. I already applied reverb in the model cycles, so it sounds a bit different, but what's important here, so it doesn't sound too muddy, is also to make room in the low end, because if you look at it, the knock is really massive, where the low end energy, it's yeah, there's a lot, so I really don't want that, because I just wanted to have a bit of a light knocking sound, like another rhythm that goes with the rest of the tracks. Yeah, I like it this way, so let's hear everything together. Yeah, sounds nice to me. Now let's group this, call it drums, and then put on the glue compressor. Since we're here in Ableton, I really like the glue compressor. And for drums, I like to use a slowish attack, so somewhere maybe 10, and a really fast release ratio, I leave it 4, and then start slowly lowering the threshold and listening what the sound does. And you see that it reacts really mostly to the kick, because the kick has just so much energy, and the compressors, yeah, they love bass and energy, so I like to put a internal sidechain, the EQ, and so that the compressor listens only to the range above, yeah, above the frequency that you set here, so it just low cuts the sidechain signal. So I hope I explained it correctly, but let's I mainly want to take out the bass, so let's go, yeah, maybe somewhere in this range, and then have a listen. And you see it if you look at the needle, and if I turn the EQ for the sidechain signal on and off, you see that the needle doesn't jump as much, because the kick got a bit tamed for the signal here. Okay, now let's put threshold. And I like to go extreme just to look what the extreme sounds like, and then I take a bit, if I like it, yeah. And I liked how it really pushes the snare forward if you listen closely. It's really like a bit of a pumping sound, so I like it somewhere around here. And of course it lowers the sound a bit, so let's turn up the makeup gain, maybe somewhere around 2 dB. Yeah, it's really subtle, but I just like the way that the tail gets pushed forward a bit. And you could go extreme here with the soft clip. Sometimes I like to do that, depending on the kind of music you make. But if you turn the soft clip on and just put the makeup gain upwards until the clip lights, it gets some really nice effects. But first, let's put a utility afterwards and lower the gain, because we'll just push it a lot. Okay, let's turn it down, -11. Yeah, you can get these heavy distorted kicks, and yeah, depending on the genre, on the kind of music and track you're making, this might be a good idea or not, but just so you know, kind of like this. But I don't want that right now, so let's leave it like this. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of it for the basic processing with some stock plugins. I'll just show you how I used this exact pattern of my model cycles for my latest track, and I worked with some third-party plugins, and I'll just show you in a bit. Okay, this is my project file for City Lights, my latest track, and you might be familiar with these tracks here: kick, snare, hi-hats, perk. Oh, I call it perk, not knock, but it's still the same knock. So let's first have a listen to my processed drums here. I think there might be some audio problems, but let's see. Yeah, I basically did the same thing from the idea. So yeah, everything got cleaned up, of course, and I really wanted to bring that snare forward a lot. So I think, yeah, we can. Yeah, you see, it's more or less the same. And okay, let's go to the group. And I didn't do this with stock plugins. I really love these plugins here. They just add so much, in my opinion, because now let's turn these off. It already sounds nice, I think, but with the shadow hills, I mainly did the same, but of course the sound is it's different. It's not automatically better, but it's different. I turned off the optical section here and just used the discrete section, and yeah, the settings were almost the same as in the glue compressor. I had the attack on 5, not on 10, and the release time, the recovery, also fastest, and not a lot of gain reduction, something between -1, -2, and also I did the sidechain filter thing. I've set it to 117 here, just to take the kick out of the input signal. And the next thing is the black box HG2 for some saturation, and this does quite a lot. I really pushed it. Yeah, I really exaggerated it a bit, but I just wanted the drums to be really in your face, and I think that worked. And what's interesting, when you look at the peak volume, when we turn the black box off, it's on -4, the drum group, and when I turn it on, although it sounds a lot louder, yeah, it's still a bit less. That's measured here. But yeah, you can do this also with the stock saturator. Just add some saturation, distortion, but yeah, you can get some really nice sounding effects with the stock plugins. But yeah, I think we all have some plugins that we like to use, and if you're interested, I can show you the rest of the track, not just the drums, so you have some context. It's yeah. I hope it helped you a bit. and I really like the sound of the Elektron Model cycles, and when I first got it, it took me some time to actually start recording it on my songs and not just jam a bit on it and have some fun with it. But when I started, really most of my tracks have some model cycles work in it, and yeah, for this song here, I didn't use any other drum samples. Yeah, just I recorded some shaker X. I'm still proud that I didn't have to cut it somewhere. Yeah. Enjoy your recordings of your model cycles, and if there are any questions or if you have any tips what's wrong with my workflow, yeah, let me know. Have some fun.